In North Carolina, you know the Moral Mondays that have been going on there now for months. And recently, according to ThinkProgress, some of the people involved in the Moral Mondays movement took the stage on Labor Day at Charlotte, North Carolina's Marshall Park. And they were there to condemn the state's record on voter suppression and racial profiling. Brad Friedman has a lot of this information, bradblog.com. I know you all are familiar with it. But this rally was to urge the community to organize and to go to the polls this November and vote. Now, just a few hundred feet away from this rally at a public park in Charlotte, the Charlotte police handcuffed and arrested a local activist and former state Senate candidate named Ty Turner as he was putting voting rights information on parked cars, right? You know how that works. You've come out of a department store, a grocery store, or whatever, and you see a flyer under your windshield. That's what this guy was doing, only it was about voting rights information. Well, Ty Turner, told ThinkProgress when he was released a few hours later, quote, "They said they would charge me for distributing literature. I asked the policeman for the ordinance number that I was violating because they can't put handcuffs on you if they cannot tell you why they're detaining you. I said, show me where it's illegal to do this." Oh, yeah. Come on, Ty. And, of course, the cop wouldn't do it. The officer got mad and grabbed me. Then he told me I was resisting arrest. Yeah, that's resisting arrest. And then interfering with an officer. And then interfering with an officer in the line of duty. And all of a sudden you've got 3 felonies against you because, 3 felony charges, because you were trying to hand out voter registration information in North Carolina. Jesus H. Christ. There is a local ordinance in Charlotte prohibiting leafleting on cars, but according to local activist Casey Thronberg, who also filmed this arrest of Ty Turner, it is almost never enforced and, quote, certainly not with handcuffs, end quote. Well, but this was a black guy. This was an activist. This was somebody who was handing out literature on how it's important and how to register to vote in North Carolina. Where they don't want you to vote. They're doing everything they can to stop you from voting. Now, here's the interesting part. Instead of taking Ty Turner to jail, directly to the Mecklenburg County Jail, which was just a few blocks away from where the arrest occurred and where the rally was going on Marshall Park, instead of doing that, they took him first to an empty parking lot behind the highway. I guess that's maybe it's Interstate 85. I don't know, but they took him to a parking lot. And Turner says they took me to 3 different spots rather than the jail. They knew they were in the wrong, he said. Now, all this happened as the Moral Majority leaders, or I'm sorry, the Moral Monday leaders led a small but enthusiastic crowd in prayer and song and chants to forward together, not one step back, and fired up, ready to vote. When they learned what had happened to Turner, they urged the rally attendees to join them on a march to the jailhouse to demand his release. About 30 people did so. On arrival, a deputy at the front desk said Ty Turner had not yet arrived, but when he did, he would be fingerprinted and photographed before being released. So, one of the leaders, the Reverend Dr. William Barber, the founder of Moral Mondays and president of the North Carolina NAACP, said this incident illustrates the need to get out the vote in the African American community. This is what Reverend Barber said, quote, "Police are hired by police chiefs who are hired by people that are elected." End quote. He then turned to Turner's friends who were crying. And Barber said, quote, "I want you to be angry. Rosa Parks got angry and she changed the world. Take this incident and turn it into power. Anyone who says they're upset about this profiling of black men, ask them if they're registered to vote. That's how we change this system," end quote. Reverend Barber added that Ty Turner's arrest reminded him of earlier, darker times in the American South. He said, quote, "The arrogance to come into our rally and think they can snatch up one of our boys and we're going to be quiet about it? That day is so old we can't even remember it," end quote. And other rally participants said they were reminded of more recent dark times, including the killing of Jonathan Farrell by Charlotte Mecklenburg police last year. Farrell, 24-year-old former college football player, was unarmed when police shot him 10 times. As the crowd in Charlotte waited outside the jail for Turner's release Monday night, a local preacher and part of Moral Mondays put in a phone call to the president of the national NAACP, who in turn called the police department demanding Ty Turner's release. And shortly after, the police told the crowd they would be releasing Turner with a citation and he would not be processed at the jail. A squad car then pulled up outside the jail and Turner emerged. Another incident and this is at ThinkProgress, you can find the whole story, just yet another incident of voter suppression. Now, a lot of this in the South is directed against black folk, but in other parts of the country, it's directed against older people. It's directed against students. I don't know why in the hell it's directed against old folks. I don't quite get that. That may be an unintended consequence of telling people they have to have new photo ID. I mean, if you take people in their 70s, 80s, and 90s, do you think they get their driver's license renewed every 5 years? Probably a lot of them do not. As far as students are concerned, their student ID card, their voter registration card is no longer good enough. Why? Well, because young people tend to vote more toward the Democratic side or the liberal side of the column, right? So you have to suppress minorities, you have to suppress students, you have to suppress as many people as you can. In a fair contest between a conservative point of view and a progressive point of view or liberal point of view, the conservative point of view on social issues will always lose. Always. Depending on how the issue at hand is worded. That's one of the oldest tricks in the books, the way you rework what it is you're trying to say to make it sound evil, nasty, or a threat.